Welcome to Law Weekly. I'm Victoria Idowu. The current feud between the Minister of State of Petroleum Resources, Dr. Kachikwu, and the Group Managing Director, NNPC, Dr. Mekanti Baru, over alleged approved contracts of $25 billion without the board approval and other issues bordering on insubordination is our focus on the program today. And Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Norrison Quackers, is our guest.
One can fault Dr. Kachikwu for coming out to say that there are infractions, acts of gross insubordination, even though there are no allegations of criminality, but by and large, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is a creation of statutes. There's an enabling act. Now, if you have a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who is expected to be the chairman, because you have a board, the NNPC board, and incidentally, when you look at the NNPC Act, it makes the chairman, the Minister for Petroleum, as the chairman of the board. Therefore, the board cannot sit without the chairman presiding. That's what the Act says. Now, the MD is also a member of the board, and the board has other board members who all sit together to take decisions that affect the NNPC. But in terms of policy thrust and policy execution, it is limited to the MD, who is the what you call the CEO of the corporation, as it were. He's put in there to execute the policies of government as it relates to the oil industry. Now, so looking at it from that perspective, one cannot but agree with Dr. Kachikwu that if decisions are to be taken in relation to the NNPC by the board, he ought to be a member of that board. He ought to have presided. Nothing should happen in relation to the NNPC without his knowledge. Mind you, he's actually the Minister for Petroleum. The greatest challenge that we have in this country is that we have had leaders who have actually not adhered strictly to the provisions of the Constitution. What I believe that the President has done so far by appointing himself as Substantive Minister and having a Minister for State for Petroleum is an infraction of the Constitution. Section 14.3 and Section 147.3 of the Constitution talks about the appointment of ministers to reflect the Nigerianness, so to speak, or oneness, what we refer to today as federal character. Now, having done that, the Constitution does not envisage minister for state. The Constitution talks about substantive minister, so you need to have a minister for petroleum. Therefore, if Dr. Kachikwu has been appointed the minister for petroleum, it automatically means that Dr. Kachikwu should have been a member of the board by virtue of his appointment as a minister for petroleum, whether of state. Now, if you say he's minister for state petroleum and the substantive minister is the president, it means all NNPC board sitting, the statutory provision which says that the substantive minister for petroleum must also preside, it means the president must preside. Now, what has now happened is a flag that has been raised is one of divide and rule. It means that the MD is bypassing the Minister for Petroleum State that he ordinarily should report to, and is reporting directly to the President. That is what one can conjecture as it is. Is it right? Legally speaking, it is wrong.
According to the Act, how is this supposed to run?
The way it ought to happen is the President ordinarily should have appointed Dr. Kachikwu as the Minister for Petroleum, Substantive Minister for Petroleum, in compliance with the provision of the Constitution and also in compliance with the provision of the National Petroleum Corporation Act. And that makes him automatically the chairman of the board of NNPC, because that's what the Act says. The Minister for Petroleum is the chairman of the board. Therefore, when the board is to sit, he, Dr. Kachikwu, or whoever he appoints as Minister for Petroleum, will preside over the meetings. And whatever is discussed or agreed, the Minister for Petroleum will be in the know, and nothing will happen in relation to the ministry without his approval. So what the President has done is a constitutional infraction.
As it is now, legally, how can this be corrected?
The only way it can be corrected is to have a substantive minister for petroleum. The Constitution and the law does not envisage a minister for state. The Constitution recognizes a minister for petroleum. And the Act itself refers to a minister for petroleum, not a minister for state petroleum. So you need to have a minister for petroleum. So if you are the president and you now appoint yourself as the substantive minister for petroleum, it means you must now preside over the board. It automatically means that you're the chairman of the board of NNPC. And that is not what the Constitution envisages. Neither does the Act, the enabling Act, envisage the president being the minister for petroleum.